The American Chronicle, a saga of conquest, conflict, and unstoppable dreams. Welcome, friend, to the epic saga of America. Forget the textbooks and the dry facts. We are about to plunge into a journey across centuries, following the footsteps of explorers, the grit of settlers, and the fierce heart of revolutionaries. By the end of this chronicle, you won't just know the history of the United States, you'll understand the fire that forged it into one of the most powerful nations the world has ever seen. Let the story begin. Part 1. The First Footprints and the New World's Collision. The original keepers of the land. Before flags were planted or ships arrived, the continent was home to people who understood its soul. 15,000 years ago, long before any European ever sailed, the Native American tribes crossed an ancient land bridge from Asia. They were the first Americans, hunters, gatherers, and builders of sophisticated cultures who lived in a delicate, powerful harmony with the land. They called the mountains, rivers, and plains their home. 1492. The world shifts, but the story of the modern nation begins with a collision. In 1492, an Italian navigator named Christopher Columbus, fueled by Spanish gold and a relentless belief in a shorter route to Asia, sailed west. He didn't find the silks and spices of India. He found a new world. When his boots hit the sandy shores of the Americas, he mistakenly named the native inhabitants Indians, though Vikings-like Leif Erikson had briefly touched Canada nearly 500 years prior. It was Columbus's voyage that ripped the curtain open, drawing the eyes of all Europe to this vast, untamed continent. The European rush and the shadow of disease. The news spread like wildfire across the royal courts of Europe. Spain, France, and England launched a frenzied rush, sending fleets to claim their slice of this immense prize. While the Spanish plundered the gold and silver of Central and South America, the English and French fixed their gaze on the north. The settlers brought with them not just new tools and animals, but an invisible, devastating enemy: disease. The introduction of European illnesses to which the Native Americans had no immunity tragically decimated populations, marking the cruel, complex beginning of a relationship built on conquest and conflict. Part 2. The Birth of Colonies and the Seeds of Rebellion. Jamestown and the Quest for Freedom. In 1607, England finally managed to plant its first permanent, stubborn root in American soil. Jamestown, Virginia. The settlers faced brutal, freezing winters and starvation, but their determination to survive prevailed. Soon after, others followed, driven by a yearning for a life they couldn't have in Europe. Among the most famous were the Pilgrims, who landed in Massachusetts in 1620 aboard the Mayflower. They were escaping religious persecution, seeking the freedom to worship as they wished. Their survival was cemented by the Native Americans who helped them through the first year, a cooperative spirit celebrated in the first Thanksgiving. A nation divided, the 13 colonies. By the 1700s, 13 distinct British colonies lined the East Coast, each a vibrant experiment in a new way of life. New England, defined by rocky coastlines and tight-knit communities, focused on fishing, forestry, and commerce. Middle colonies, the breadbasket, a diverse, thriving hub of cultures and religions, known for growing vast amounts of grain. Southern colonies, dominated by immense plantations, where profitable crops like tobacco, rice, and cotton flourished, all built on the backs of enslaved Africans, the darkest stain on America's genesis, the spark of revolution. Even across an ocean, the King of England, George III, ruled. He demanded taxes, but offered the colonists no voice in Parliament. This was the crushing weight that broke the loyalty. The colonists' cry became a defiant roar. No taxation without representation. The simmering anger boiled over in 1773 with the famous Boston Tea Party, where colonists disguised themselves and threw British tea into the harbor, a direct act of economic defiance, the road to independence. The tension escalated into war. In 1775, the American Revolution began. Led by the commanding presence of George Washington, the ragtag colonial army fought for its very existence against the mighty British forces. The war's defining moment came when Thomas Jefferson penned the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776. This document was more than a declaration of war. It was a defiant statement of universal human rights, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Despite the odds, with crucial aid from France, the Americans secured victory at Yorktown in 1781. In 1783, the United States of America was officially born. A new country, built on a revolutionary ideal, now had to learn how to stand on its own. Part 3. Expansion, Division, and the Civil War. Doubling the Dream, Manifest Destiny. After electing George Washington as their first president in 1789, the young nation had an insatiable hunger for land. The belief in manifest destiny, that Americans were destined to spread across the entire continent, fueled a relentless push westward. In a move of breathtaking scale, President Thomas Jefferson executed the Louisiana Purchase in 1803, buying a vast territory from France that instantly doubled the size of the U.S. explorers like Lewis and Clark. Guided by the invaluable Sacagawea, charted the unknown lands, opening the floodgates for pioneers, the shadow of slavery, and a nation divided. As America expanded, so did the system that defined its wealth. Slavery, the South's agrarian economy built on cotton and tobacco plantations, became deeply dependent on the horrific forced labor of enslaved Africans. The North, which was rapidly industrializing, viewed slavery as morally repugnant and economically unnecessary. By the mid-1800s, America was no longer one nation, but two fundamentally different countries sharing a map. Brave abolitionists fought back, creating the Underground Railroad, a secret network led by heroes like Harriet Tubman to guide the enslaved to freedom. Brother against brother, the Civil War. The tension finally snapped. In 1861, Southern states seceded to form the Confederacy, and the brutal Civil War began. It was a conflict not just over states' rights, but over the moral fate of the nation itself. President Abraham Lincoln led the Union, determined to preserve the country and end slavery. In 1863, Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing all enslaved people in Confederate states. The war, a bloody 4-year struggle, ended in 1865 with a Union victory. The 13th Amendment officially abolished slavery forever. The Union was saved, but the scars of division were deep, leading to a difficult period of rebuilding known as Reconstruction. Part 4. The Industrial Age and Global Power. The Revolution of Steel and Steam. The late 1800s ushered in the Industrial Revolution. America transformed from a nation of farms into a giant of steel, steam, and electricity. Inventors like Thomas Edison lit up homes and factories, and Alexander Graham Bell shrank distances with the telephone. Railroads stitched the continent together, and factories boomed, but often at the expense of the workers. Millions of immigrants poured through ports like Ellis Island in New York, seeking the promise of the American dream, the belief that through sheer hard work, anyone could achieve success. They faced hardship and discrimination, but fueled America's staggering growth. The Roaring Twenties and the crash. America flexed its new muscles on the global stage, winning the Spanish-American War in 1898 and proving its might in world as War I, 1914, 1918. The 1920s, the Roaring Twenties, were an era of jazz, reckless spending, and social change, including women gaining the right to vote. But the party ended abruptly. In 1929, the stock market crashed, triggering the Great Depression, the worst economic crisis in U.S. history. Banks failed, millions lost their jobs, and people stood in bread lines just for a meal. President Franklin D. Roosevelt, FDR, offered a lifeline with the New Deal programs, rebuilding the economy and providing hope through his famous fireside chats on the radio. World wars and the Cold War rivalry. The recovery was overshadowed by global conflict. After the shocking attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, America plunged into World War II. American factories became the arsenal of democracy, and the war culminated in 1945 with the defeat of Germany and Japan. Emerging from the ashes as the world's preeminent power, the U.S. immediately entered a new conflict, the Cold War. The struggle between the democratic, capitalist U.S. and the communist Soviet Union defined global politics for decades, leading to a tense space race, culminating in the U.S. moon landing in 1969 and terrifying confrontations such as the Cuban Missile Crisis. Part 5. The ongoing fight for equality and the modern era. The triumph of civil rights. Despite its global power, America had a profound moral flaw: segregation and racial inequality. Inspired by leaders like Martin Luther King Jr., the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s mobilized millions. Landmark moments included the Montgomery bus boycott, the Supreme Court's ruling that ended school segregation, Brown v. Board of Education, 1954, and the powerful March on Washington in 1963, where Dr. King delivered his iconic "I Have a Dream" speech. This movement led to the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, securing fundamental rights and moving the nation closer to its founding ideals. A diverse, influential leader. Today, America stands as a global titan, a leader in technology, culture, and innovation. Its diversity is its greatest strength, a vibrant tapestry of people from every corner of the earth who bring talent, food, and ideas. Hollywood, Silicon Valley, and iconic figures in music and fashion ensure America's cultural influence spans the entire globe. But the story is not finished. Modern America still grapples with challenges like political division, income inequality, and the fight against systemic racism. Yet, its history is a powerful testament to resilience, the ability to face a challenge, overcome it, and emerge stronger. The United States of America is a country founded on a revolutionary promise, a place where dreams are believed to be achievable, and a future is always being written by the courage, hard work, and relentless hope of its people.